rock!" Sasha yelled from the front of the small boat. From the tiller, Caleb squinted against the stinging rain as he tried to decipher the abstract shapes floating past them in the darkness. A sudden flash of lightning revealed a huge stone column jutting out of the rough sea directly ahead. Caleb pulled the tiller to avoid a collision, steering them towards what he hoped was the main channel. Alaska's inside passage was a labyrinth of islands, and he honestly had no idea where they were. A sudden jolt knocked them both off their feet. The motor screamed in protest as the propeller caught against a boulder beneath the waterline, and the boat lurched to a stop. Caleb cut the engine, plunging them into an eerie silence. The boat bobbed awkwardly as the back remained hung up on the rocks. "Listen," Sasha told him. It took a moment for Caleb to realize what she was hearing. The distinct sound of waves crashing against rocks. It was coming from all around them. A large swell washed under them, lifting the boat as it passed. It wasn't enough to dislodge them, but the boat came down hard with a hollow crunch that surely cracked the fiberglass hull. Another flash of lightning revealed an approaching wave at least twice as large and cresting just off their bow. They braced themselves as the wave hit. Sasha fared as well as could be expected in the front of the boat, but Caleb took the brunt of it. The sheer force of the wave slammed him against the wall before washing him over the railing. Any pain that Caleb felt paled in comparison to the sudden immersion in icy water. By Alaskan standards, 57 degrees was actually quite warm, but still enough to send an unaccustomed body into shock. Caleb's head rang as he came up, gasping for air. He had just enough mental faculty left to see that the wave had carried him 20 yards from the boat, which was now bobbing freely but half submerged. The rocky shore was at least 5 times further, but it was in the direction of the current. Caleb forced his trembling limbs in the direction of the shore, but as he got close, he could tell that the waves crashing against the rocks were much larger and more violent than he had thought. He felt himself dropping down and touched bottom, but the bigger the trough, the bigger the swell. He turned just in time to see the wave come down on top of him, slamming him underwater, and everything went black. Back in the boat, Sasha managed to regain her balance on the slippery deck, which was now half submerged as the boat sank. She tied off a line and threw it in Caleb's direction, but it wasn't nearly long enough, and Sasha could see that Caleb wasn't moving. Without hesitation, Sasha dove into the water. It was just as cold, but the adrenaline and the conscious decision to jump in helped soften the effects that Caleb had experienced. As the waves helped carry her towards him, she felt a sinking feeling in her gut as she saw that Caleb was indeed unconscious. She grabbed him by the life jacket and held on for dear life as a wave came down on top of them. Sasha tumbled over the seabed but somehow managed to keep hold of Caleb. When she came up, it was shallow enough to stand, and she realized that they were on a sandbar 50 yards from the rocky shoreline. There was no way to get there through the gauntlet of waves, and even if she could, the rocks offered no protection from the onslaught of the surf. She dragged Caleb to the closest sea stack, and with her last ounce of strength, hoisted him up to a ledge on the leeward side of the rock. Caleb's skin was cold, but she could feel a pulse and shallow breathing. Sasha pulled her jacket over them both and tried to find a comfortable spot on the sharp rocks. Exhaustion took hold, and she drifted into a restless sleep. Sasha's eyes opened reluctantly. The storm had passed, and it was just bright enough to see her surroundings in the early morning mist. Probably 3 a.m., she guessed. In August, the Alaskan sun had the annoying habit of setting so late and rising so early that there were only a couple of hours of true darkness. She and Caleb had been on the family vacation long enough that the novelty had worn off. "Caleb," she said aloud, as the previous night's events came flooding back to her. The sudden noise was enough to rouse Caleb, who woke with a start. "Ow!" Caleb groaned as he settled back against the rock. "Can you make it to shore?" asked Sasha, indicating a narrow strip of sand where the remains of their boat had washed up. Caleb nodded and forced himself off the ledge. The water was even colder this time, and they were both shivering uncontrollably by the time they reached shore. Sasha trudged over to the boat and pulled their phones out of a waterproof compartment. Both of them still worked, but couldn't find a signal. Caleb's dad, Sasha's uncle, would be out looking for them, but that could take days with so many islands to search. The boat had landed on its side and the motor was flooded with water after being submerged. But the real problem was the hull. It had several cracks in the fiberglass where the boat had hit the rocks. It wasn't going anywhere without a lot of work. Sasha gathered some fallen branches from the tree line. They were soaking wet, but some gasoline from the boat helped get them burning. The smoke was thick, which Sasha hoped might attract anyone out looking for them. After 30 minutes by the fire, Sasha was warm and dry, but Caleb's skin was pale and he still shivered uncontrollably. "Hypothermia," observed Sasha. "We need to get you moving." The beach was flanked by steep cliffs, so they made their way up to the tree line, which rose more gradually in each direction. "What's that?" asked Caleb, pointing at one of the pines. Halfway up the trunk, a small security camera was attached to what looked like a tiny satellite dish. Even though it was a sign of civilization, something about the sudden feeling of being watched gave Sasha the creeps. They followed the tree line as it rose to the top of a steep cliff. From higher up, they could see the shoreline arc around the base of a small mountain just tall enough to be covered with a dusting of snow. Other than a few distant islands and a coastline at least 20 miles away, it was ocean as far as the eye could see.